He's racing the ball up the court. He's assessed who's with me, who's against me, who's coming next. He's already determined he can't race it up ahead to a teammate for a 9. So the next thing he's thinking about, believe it or not, and this is going to surprise some of you, and this is what some of you are missing right now in your game, but hopefully you won't be after tonight. Once he realizes there's no one ahead of him, once he's assessed the situation, the next thing he's thinking about is getting himself a 9. If he can get all the way to the rim and get a 90% shot, that's what he's trying to do. But let's say he can't. Let's say he can't get to the rim and get a 90% shot. Well, his next option is then to try to create something for someone else. And what do you think is the best way to try to create something for someone else in that kind of a situation when the defense is disorganized? To do what? We've been talking about it for the last 2 days, last day. What do we say was the basis of good playmaking? Being able to do what? To engage 2. The easiest time in basketball to engage 2 is in a fast break because the defense is so disorganized. But here's something else this special point guard understands, and you better understand this too. You never have to beat 2 people to be a great player. You never have to beat 2 people to be a great player. In fact, that's what great point guards do, is they just go around and get 2 people on them, put the defense at a disadvantage, get the ball to the open man. That's what great point guards do all the time. If you go watch a really experienced point guard play, whenever they have one man on them, that's when they go fast. That's when they go fast. That's when they try to beat that man. They try to get to the rim. They try to get to the paint. But whenever they have 2 people on them, that's when they slow down. They get tough. They pick up the basketball. They find the open man. But if you go watch an inexperienced point guard play, they do exactly the opposite. A lot of times whenever there's one man on them, they'll slow it up, or they'll pull it back out, or they let one man stop them somehow. Or sometimes they pick up their dribble a long way away from the basket with one man on them. But then whenever they get 2 people on them, they panic, and they get in a hurry, and they try to dribble out of trouble. They try to split that double team, and they usually lose the ball. So whenever there's one man on you, that's when you want to go fast. That's when you want to try to beat them. That's when you want to try to get to the lane. But whenever you have 2 people on you, that's when you want to pick the ball up, get tough, find the open man. So on a fast break situation, when you're trying to create for someone else, your goal ought to be to engage a couple of those defenders. And it's easy to do in a fast break situation because the defense is so disorganized. And by the way, where do you think is the best place to go if you wanted to get 2 of those disorganized defenders on you? Zach? To the paint. That's why you hunt the paint, because that's the easiest place to get 2 people to guard you. So he's trying to create for somebody else by getting to the lane, engaging a couple of those defenders, and seeing if he can get an 8 or a 9 for one of his teammates. But now what about this? Let's say this point guard catches his outlet pass, and let's say he looks down the court, and he sees a situation that looks like this. 2 on offense, 3 on defense. And let's say this is that really special point guard that we're inside the mind of right now. What do you think he's thinking when he assesses this situation and he sees what he's got? Any ideas? What do you think he's thinking? What do you think he's feeling? Okay, let's say he's already assessed that. He's already assessed who's with me, who's against me, who's coming next. He's already assessed that. So he knows what the situation is. Okay. That's what most point guards would think. He said, pull back, let the rest of the offense catch up so we can run the offense. I don't think that's very opportunistic. And that's probably not what a really special point guard is thinking in a situation like this. A really special point guard in a situation like this is thinking, oh boy, what an opportunity. We got a chance to get an easy one right now. The reason he's thinking that is because, here's the thing you've always got to remember. Don't forget that these guys are disorganized. Up here on the magnetic board, it looks like they're just sort of standing there, posted up in a 3-man zone. In real life, it's not like that. They're disorganized. They're running down there. They might not be seeing the basketball. They're probably not communicating. They're disorganized. Never assume that just because you don't have numbers, never assume that those disorganized defenders are going to be able to keep you from getting an 8 or a 9. Most of the time, they won't. Most teams don't play very good transition defense. If you took a poll and you went up to all the top coaches, all the top college coaches in the country, of all the best teams in the country, and you asked all those coaches, hey, coach, does your team play very good transition defense? Most of them will tell you, no, we're not real good at that. We work on it real hard in practice, but we're just not real good at that yet. Most teams don't play very good transition defense. So just because you're outnumbered here, don't assume that these guys are going to keep you from getting an easy one. Because most of the time, if you race it down the court, one of two things is going to happen for you here. First of all, you always hear coaches yelling from the sideline, stop the ball, stop the ball, stop the ball. But very few defensive players will aggressively and assertively stop the basketball. Very few players will do that. So if this point guard takes it with that attitude that he's going to try to get himself a 9, and he plays it sort of like that 5 seconds to win situation, he's got one guy between him and the basket, you'd be surprised how often this guy never stops the ball and you can get yourself a 9, a 90% shot. Because remember, this team is disorganized. Or if that doesn't happen, a lot of times something like this will happen to you. Let's say this guy hunts the paint. Let's say he can't beat this guy for a 9, so he hunts the paint. A lot of times, not only will one guy tentatively stop the basketball, another guy will tentatively stop the basketball, and even this guy will tentatively stop the basketball. All three of those guys will be drawn to you, and if your teammate does a good job of getting down here and getting dangerous for you, you've just created a 9, even though you didn't have numbers. So a really special point guard, when he realizes he doesn't have numbers, he's thinking, I'm going to race it every time as if I have numbers, even if I don't. You want to race the ball up court as if you have numbers, even if you don't. Because the defense is disorganized. It doesn't matter that you're outnumbered. What's most important is that they're disorganized. You can still get easy shots. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I did not just say that even when you don't have numbers, you should dribble down there as fast as you can and force up a quick shot. That's not what I said. That's very different than what I said. What I said is even if you don't have numbers, you still want to race. And remember what that word race meant. It doesn't mean rush. It means to bring the ball up court at a speed that makes the defense uncomfortable. It means to probe that disorganized defense to see if you can get 8s and 9s, sometimes 7s, 8s, and 9s. You should do that every time, whether you have numbers or not.